What happens to your grandma's recipe cards when no one in the family wants them anymore? They wind up in thrift stores or antique shops where someone like me buys them as a recipe collector. And every once in a while, there's a really good one in there with a hint of the family it used to belong to. Today's video is about one of those special recipes. It's called Father's Favorite Cake. It's really 3 different recipes, and the end result tastes like a Mounds bar. You're going to want to see this, so stick around to find out more. When I think about Father's favorite cake, I like to imagine a loving family gathered round for Dad's birthday, anticipating a slice of that white cake with coconut cream filling and chocolate icing. The original recipe card actually calls out 2 other recipes, one for Hungarian chocolate icing, which was in the recipe box, and another for coconut cream filling, which was not. So that left us with a bit of a dilemma. Not to be deterred, we developed a tasty coconut cream filling of our own and gave it a try. The resulting Father's favorite cake was delicious, but we found the original white cake to be a bit spongy and dry. But the flavor of the icing and filling was so good that we decided to substitute the original cake with another from the recipe box. The one we chose is fittingly called Mother's White Cake. The recipe actually comes from my great-grandmother, so it really is one from Gram's recipe box. It's simple to make but results in a cake that's moist and tender and is able to be split nicely into 4 layers. It's the perfect companion for this icing and filling. This all adds up to a delectable cake that tastes so much like that famous candy bar that we're changing the name to Mounds Bar Cake. We hope that sounds great to you because it tastes amazing. So grab your aprons and let's get started. First up is Mother's White Cake. You'll need sugar, butter, salt, vanilla, cake flour, baking powder, and egg whites. To start, we are going to cream the butter and sugar. I like to use baking sugar instead of regular granulated sugar because it's finer and incorporates evenly into baked goods. The creaming of the butter and sugar adds air to the structure, making it light and fluffy, so cream that for 3 minutes and then add a 1/4 teaspoon salt and 1 teaspoon vanilla. Separately, we have the whites of 4 eggs in a bowl and are going to whip them until stiff. Here I'm using the whisk on my mixer, but if you don't have one, don't worry. The dual beaters on a hand mixer are going to work too. Start with room temperature whites. They're going to beat more nicely at room temperature than if they're cold, so separate them cold and set aside the yolks for later. Then let the whites stand for about 30 minutes. Start off on medium speed, and when you are getting soft peaks, you can then switch to high speed. When the whites are glossy white and a nice peak forms and holds when you take out your beater, they are ready. Now we are going to add our ingredients in an alternating wet-dry method. So if you consider the creamed butter and sugar as wet, the next thing is dry. So in goes the baking powder. The next item is wet, so pour in the water and mix that real well. The next thing is dry, so we'll add the cake flour. You can add this gradually if you like. When I use my stand mixer, I add this 1 cup at a time to reduce the flour cloud. Mix this all well and then set aside your mixer. Because we have a lot of air in the beaten egg whites, we don't want to knock it all out with the mixer, so we will fold that in by hand. Using a spatula, put the egg whites into the cake mix and gently fold the batter until the egg whites are incorporated. Your cake pans should be ready to go. You can line them with baking paper or use baking spray. Divide the batter between 2 9-inch cake pans and bake for 30 minutes at 325. Be sure to check the center before you remove the cakes. If the toothpick comes out clean, the cake is done. Set the cakes on cooling racks for about 10 minutes and then turn them out onto parchment paper. You can use a cake slicer or a sharp knife to split the cakes and flatten the tops. This is going to give you 4 nice layers. Wrap the layers in plastic wrap and then pop them into the freezer while you make your icing and filling. Next up, let's make the coconut cream filling. To make the coconut cream filling, you will need whipping cream, cream cheese, vanilla extract, coconut flavoring, powdered sugar, and coconut flakes. Your whipping cream should be cold and your cream cheese should be at room temperature. We'll start with the whipping cream and both the flavorings. I've found that a straight-sided stainless steel bowl works best for whipping cream. I don't know why, it just seems to result in a light and fluffy whip. So whip this until the cream holds peaks and then set this aside. I had to recreate this filling since there wasn't a card for it, so I've combined 2 of my husband's favorite icings. It's a combination of a cream cheese icing and a whipped cream icing, giving you the best of both. It spreads nicely and has a luscious and creamy texture. Next, beat the cream cheese until it's smooth, and then add in the powdered sugar and cream those 2 together. You'll want this to be really smooth. Now we will mix the cream cheese icing into the whipped cream icing, making sure to incorporate it all together. The final step is to add your coconut flakes. Normally, I don't like coconut all that much, but in this icing, it's really delicious. When it's all blended together, cover the bowl and put that in the fridge until you're putting the cake together. Finally, we'll make the chocolate icing. To make it, you'll need baker's chocolate, powdered sugar, egg yolks, butter, and water. Earlier for the cake, we separated 4 eggs and we used the whites in the cake. Now we need the yolks, but we need a total of 6 yolks for the chocolate icing, so you'll need to separate 2 more. You can save the whites for an omelet. You want to melt your baker's chocolate in a double boiler, but if like me, you don't own one, you can use a smaller saucepan in a larger pan of boiling water like you see here. The reason we use the double boiler is that chocolate can burn really easily and also get clumpy if it's over direct heat. The boiling water is going to give you indirect heat that is evenly distributed on the bottom of your saucepan, and it protects the chocolate. Once it's melted, take the pot off the heat and then add in the powdered sugar, and then 1 or 2 tablespoons of hot water. I used 2. You don't want to make the icing too thin here, so be real careful not to add too much water. Now we will add in the egg yolks one at a time, beating in between each one. You can see here mine broke in the dish, so don't just dump them in all at once if that happened to you. And if you are concerned about putting eggs into icing, don't worry. The heat of the chocolate cooks the yolks. The last step here is to add your butter 1 tablespoon at a time and beat after each one. You'll see the icing really becoming smooth and glossy. It's beautiful and delicious. We're on the home stretch now, so let's assemble this cake. Bring your cakes out of the freezer, get the coconut cream from the fridge, and have your chocolate at hand. Center the bottom layer of cake on the plate and add a layer of coconut cream. I know you're going to be tempted to put a lot of coconut cream filling, but just be aware that it can make icing the outside a little tricky unless you put the cake back into the fridge to chill. Place the second layer of cake and cover it with chocolate icing. You can take that chocolate right to the edge. Place the third layer of cake and top it with coconut cream. For the final layer, flip it over so the bottom of the cake is on the top. This will give you a nice top surface. Clean up the sides with your spatula, then start on the top. Spread the chocolate icing across the top and gently smooth it toward the edges. Next, work around the sides, making sure to cover it evenly. I know it's tempting to go back and fix any spots that don't look right to you, but try to resist. Every time I've ever iced a cake and tried to fix it, I've just made it worse. If you need to put the cake into the fridge before you ice the sides, that's okay. A cool cake is easier to ice. The final touch from the original recipe is to write, "Hi Dad," on the cake. I can only imagine the original dad really liked this cake and his daughter made it for special occasions. Maybe you want to write something different on your cake, but we went with the original. What started as pulling a random recipe out of a box has evolved into a really special and delicious treat. It combines 3 distinct recipes, one original, another brand new, and even one from the real Graham's recipe box. My family really loves it, and it's one we will make again and again. Maybe for your next family birthday in your household, you can try our Mounds Bar Cake, and it may become your father's favorite. If you do, let us know in the comments down below. The full recipe is available in the description and on our website. We hope you've enjoyed our Mounds Bar Cake video. If you have, please like and subscribe. See you next time.